Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin Part 25 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. Having received 10 million cosmic sand from Marquis of Zhujiang, Luo Feng felt his hands were a little freer. 5 days later, the catastrophe beast diagram he purchased arrived. Deputy Pavilion Master Luo Feng received him politely. The figure enshrouded in grey mist, the Deputy Pavilion Master, walked in and handed a scroll shimmering with starlight to Luo Feng. Luo He, this is the catastrophe beast diagram. Since you dared to buy it, you should already know about some taboos related to comprehending the catastrophe beast diagram. Yes, Luo Feng nodded. As a well-known treasure for wool cultivation, both of his inherited lineages had detailed introductions to it. Moreover, having reached the pinnacle wool of primal chaos realm, the dangers of comprehension had already been greatly reduced. The catastrophe beast diagram was personally drawn by an emperor of the flame-wind ancient country. The imperial clansmen understand very well how to comprehend the catastrophe beast diagram, the Deputy Pavilion Master said with a smile. Normally, the secret techniques for comprehension are only passed within the large families of the flame-wind ancient country and are not easily spread to smaller nations. This is a void diagram that complements the catastrophe beast diagram. When combined with the two diagrams and used in conjunction with the secret technique, the effects of wool cultivation are the best, the Deputy Pavilion Master said as he took out another scroll of the void diagram. Even when the void diagram was rolled up, it seemed to contain boundless space and time. This void diagram. Luo Feng was amazed. The void diagram, only members of the Imperial clan may apply to purchase. It was the Pavilion Master who bought it for you, and quite cheaply at that, only 1 million cosmic sand, the Deputy Pavilion Master said with a smile. You must use the void diagram to comprehend the secret technique for it to be effective. Luo Feng's transmission token also received a copy of the secret technique. The void diagram and the secret technique for comprehension are gifts from the Pavilion Master to you, said the Deputy Pavilion Master. Please thank the Pavilion Master for me, Luo Feng said gratefully. The catastrophe beast diagram was not restricted from being sold to outsiders, but the matching void diagram was only available to Imperial clansmen, greatly restricting the distribution range. In this world, in the end, it's still about strength. Having shown sufficient strength, both the clansmen from Yu Kingdom and the Imperial clansmen of Flame-Wind Ancient Country extended olive branches to him. After the Deputy Pavilion Master left, Luo Feng immediately went into closed-door cultivation to comprehend the catastrophe beast diagram inside the Star Tower. Whoosh! Both the catastrophe beast diagram and the void diagram floated in the air, with the void diagram perfectly superimposed on the catastrophe beast diagram. Based on the information I had before, to comprehend the catastrophe beast diagram, one should start from the edges and gradually expand the area of comprehension until eventually taking in the entire scroll. Luo Feng looked at the catastrophe beast diagram before him. But the method used by the Imperial clan of the Flame-Wind Ancient Country is to combine it with the void diagram. Covering the catastrophe beast diagram with the void diagram reflects it across 3,000 layers of the void, creating different scrolls for different layers. After comprehending the 3,000 void catastrophe beast diagram, comprehending the complete catastrophe beast diagram will yield much stronger effects. Luo Feng observed the first layer of the void diagram which reflected the catastrophe beast diagram. The first layer showed a fierce and terrifying exotic beast undergoing countless calamities. With each calamity that befell it, the beast continually transformed. After passing through numerous calamities, the fierce and terrifying exotic beast became dazzlingly brilliant, even producing a light so bright it shone like the sun. This light was the light of the spirit, shining upon Luo Feng's own spirit. Just this first layer of the scroll already required the will of the primal chaos realm to withstand. As Luo Feng watched, he felt as if he himself had become the exotic beast, enduring the calamities. The portrayal of the catastrophe beast in the drawing and the actual calamities were worlds apart, and after being reflected across 3,000 layers by the void diagram, it was weakened by billions of times. By the time it reached Luo Feng's spirit, it had already become very weak, merely allowing Luo Feng to savor a taste of it. By the time he had experienced the entire first layer of the scroll, it was already daylight outside. Is this the fundamental sentiment of the catastrophe beast diagram? To let me understand in advance. Luo Feng immediately began to comprehend the scroll of the second layer of the void that was being reflected, which was enveloped by an endless sense of death. The 3000 void catastrophe beast diagram allows understanding of the catastrophe beast diagram from different angles. The first layer, the fundamental sentiment layer. The second layer, the despair layer of endless death. The third layer, the calm nightmare layer. Fortunately, Luo Feng's own spiritual will was strong enough that he could immerse himself in comprehending each layer one by one. He felt as if he had transformed into a catastrophe beast, going through the trials of each layer. Luo Feng sat alone at the peak of the cave mansion, watching the fine rain drizzle between heaven and earth. The 3000 void calamity beast diagram had immersed Luo Feng so deeply that he had only reached the 8th level before temporarily stopping, partly because his spirit felt tired and needed rest, and partly because he needed to pause and ponder carefully. The experience of a catastrophe beast differs from that of normal cultivators, Luo Feng reflected. From the moment of its birth, it faces relentless calamities, each designed to drive it to total despair and utter destruction. The world of cultivators still had order. But what the catastrophe beasts experienced was endless calamity. If at any moment they gave up in despair, they would die. Only with an heart of eternality can one survive the endless calamities. Each disaster forges them anew. Having survived one, they face another. Such seemingly endless calamities, just understanding the essence makes me shudder, Luo Feng thought to himself. He, too, had undergone trials and tests of life and death, but not as many as those experienced by the catastrophe beast. Each calamity seemed to be ordained by some high and mighty law, Luo Feng mused, sensing this high law was different from the highest laws. The spirit appears to be the most fragile. Once the spiritual will shatters, even if one possesses a powerful divine body and powerful secret treasure weapons, one cannot exert one's full strength. But if the spirit is strong, just by sheer willpower, enemies can be swept away. The heart is a weakness, but it can also be the most powerful weapon. At that moment, Luo Feng also felt some admiration for the catastrophe beast. Having survived so many dreadful calamities, it finally reached the other shore, completely transforming itself. Suddenly, Luo Feng felt that inside his body, the Star Tower, Morosa was asking to come out. Master! Master, let me out, Morosa communicated telepathically. Upon Luo Feng's intention, Morosa appeared out of thin air beside him. Morosa lay down contentedly as he watched the drizzle outside, comfortably rubbing his belly. The corpse of Shuiyun is still in the Star Tower. How come you resting? Luo Feng looked at him, fully aware of everything inside the Star Tower. I'm a bit overfull, Morosa lied comfortably, communicating telepathically. I first absorbed other eternal true god corpses, which were only marginally helpful. But Yu Tianshu's corpse is too strong and its bloodline so special that I'm stuffed and can't digest it right away. Even a sector beast could become overfull if it ate too rapidly. The fact that Yu Tianshu could cultivate to make his divine body comparable to unlimited divine bodies testified to the terrifying nature of his bloodline. You can get stuffed too. Luo Feng teased telepathically. I feel that if I digest for a while, even without absorbing any more divine bodies, I could suffice to reach the primal chaos realm for dozens of eras. Morosa excitedly stood up, transmitting, Master, if I continue to absorb the divine body of Shuiyun after some days, I believe I could directly enter the primal chaos realm after completely absorbing it. Luo Feng was astonished. So soon you want to enter the primal chaos realm? Luo Feng looked at him. Yu Tianshu's divine body, comparable to the unlimited divine bodies, is just smaller in size, yet his bloodline is extraordinary. The divine body of Shuiyun attracts me even more than Yu Tianshu's, Morosa telepathically communicated. I am certain, once I have absorbed the divine body of Shuiyun, I will certainly achieve the primal chaos realm. Master, when will you achieve the primal chaos realm? Morosa telepathically communicated, deliberately asking. Luo Feng looked at him. How are your will cultivation techniques coming along? Later on, inside the Star Tower, how about we spar and test out the secret technique of willpower? Morosa gamely grinned. Go and teach Qingyang, that kid has yet to grasp even the 10 fundamental laws, Luo Feng urged. Yes, yes, Morosa didn't boast, instantly transforming into a shadow and flying towards the mountain base to find Moyu Qingyang. Luo Feng slightly shook his head. Days passed, and Luo Feng, aside from resting every few days, spent his time on understanding the Calamity Beast diagram. Suddenly one day. Master! Master, Moyu Qingyang urgently transmitted. What is it? Luo Feng was currently inside the underground hall of the Star Tower, delving into the Calamity Beast diagram. He knew Moyu Qingyang wouldn't disturb him lightly. There's a letter for you, said to be a personal letter from the Marquis of Liu Yin. Moyu Qingyang felt pressured, as a personal letter from a primal chaos overlord naturally couldn't be ignored by the master. Boom! The door of the underground hall opened. Luo Feng walked out, his figure flashing, and he soon arrived at the main entrance of the cave mansion. Lord Luo He, standing at the cave mansion's main entrance, was a rock creature who smiled accommodatingly. I am Chen Shijiu from Qian Shi Commerce Association, entrusted by the Marquis of Liu Yin of Shi Kingdom to deliver this personal letter to you. The Qian Shi Commerce Association was also a major commerce association spread across multiple nations, backed by several godly kings, and likewise had a branch in Huyang City. Thank you, Chairman Chen. Luo Feng knew the other's identity. Just delivering a letter, so I'll take my leave now, the rock creature said with a smile. As the chairman of the Qian Shi Commerce Association branch in Huyang City, his status and influence were top tier within the city, but he remained very humble in front of Luo Feng. Luo Feng took the letter and watched the other leave. The door closed, and Luo Feng's figure flashed as he already reached the top of the mountain. He immediately began to examine the letter. As he peeled away the outer layer of the seal, the letter burst into flames, burning into a mass of blood-red fire, startling Luo Feng slightly. A divine power incarnation. Luo Feng naturally realized that a strand of terrifying divine power was hidden within the letter, which was triggered as he opened it. The blood-red flames coalesced into a figure clad in dark red armor, vaguely emitting an aura of dark disaster, smiling at Luo Feng with eyes that were two blazing orbs of blood-red flames. Even as he smiled, Luo Feng still felt an ominous terror, carrying a strong threat. Marquis Liu Yin. Luo Feng was also somewhat familiar with simple information about Marquis Liu Yin. It is I, Marquis Liu Yin nodded with a smile. I heard about a remarkable eternal true god in Huyang City, and I came to meet him in person. The Marquis flatters me. Compared to you, we eternal true gods are not worth mentioning, Luo Feng immediately replied. Today you are an eternal true god, perhaps in the future, you will also be a primal chaos overlord. A peer of mine, Marquis Liu Yin stood atop a mountain looking at the vast city, Huyang City, a beautiful city indeed. I intend to make it part of my fiefdom. What do you think? Luo Feng immediately said, the conflict between Liu Yin Primal Chaos State and Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture is not something an eternal true god like me can decide. Marquis Liu Yin gazed at the vast heaven and earth, sighing, in the land of origin, powers are mixed, every resource has its master. Even godly kings often have no chance to intervene in the most precious resources. Those of us who want to ascend the path of cultivation, evolving to higher levels of life. Personal cultivation is one part, resources are another. Marquis Liu Yin looked at Luo Feng. The fiefdom of a primal chaos overlord can produce resources endlessly. Unfortunately, I only have one primal chaos state as my fiefdom, too small. Luo Feng listened. According to the rules of Shi Kingdom, a primal chaos overlord has only one primal chaos state as a fiefdom. Want something bigger? You have to conquer it yourself, Marquis Liu Yin commented. Zhujiang primal chaos state adjacent to mine is my perfect target. For my path of cultivation, I need to expand my fiefdom, stated Marquis Liu Yin. No one can stop me, for stopping me is to obstruct my path of cultivation. The voice of Marquis Liu Yin carried an unshakable will. If the Marquis of Zhujiang obstructs me, I will handle him personally. Marquis Liu Yin looked at Luo Feng, and at the level of an eternal true god, your single-handed power can surpass the entire army of Huyang City. I hope you do not intervene in this matter. If you do not intervene, I will send you a gift, and we can also be friends. If you intervene, messing up my plans. Marquis Liu Yin looked at Luo Feng. Think about it. Is it worth it to risk your life for an unrelated Marquis of Zhujiang? After finishing, the figure of Marquis Liu Yin dissipated. Knowing Luo Feng's intelligence after understanding his loathing of evil and that he was difficult to use, Marquis Liu Yin decided to intimidate him a bit. A retreat on Luo Feng's part would naturally be good. Even if unsuccessful, there was no loss for him. This Marquis Liu Yin seems very intent on seizing Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture. Luo Feng slightly frowned. Clearly even Primal Chaos Overlords cared greatly about the continuous resource output of their fiefdoms. I should still act with caution in my future actions, thought Luo Feng. In fact, Luo Feng had never truly intended to risk his life for the Marquis of Zhujiang. Whether it was the regular conduct of the 5 great families of the city owner's mansion or preparing himself to cope with the future kings of Shi Kingdom, there was no need to put himself in jeopardy. Marquis Liu Yin coming to see me personally, this Huyang city and even the entire Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture might be about to face a war. Luo Feng thought for a while, then returned to the underground hall. The ownership of Zhujiang Primal Chaos Prefecture should worry the Marquis of Zhujiang, the godly kings of Yu Kingdom, not himself. How many benefits were there really, to warrant risking his life? Inside the Star Tower, Luo Feng sat cross-legged, gazing at the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram floating in midair. At the 533rd layer, the Catastrophe Beast faced battle after battle, during which it also encountered some companions. Luo Feng could see on the reflected void diagram, besides the Catastrophe Beast, there were some similar catastrophe creatures, but its companions fell one by one, some even killed by the Catastrophe Beast itself. At the 679th layer, the Catastrophe Beast had no more companions. At this moment it was even more lonely, yet even more powerful. Its spiritual will grew more terrifying, solving all the calamities it faced. Luo Feng vaguely sensed a path of telepathic cultivation, belonging to the Catastrophe Beast's telepathy method. At over 600 layers, the Catastrophe Beast's spiritual will had grown terrifyingly, far surpassing Luo Feng at that moment, capable of causing the vast heaven and earth to vanish and the intangible laws of calamity to collapse with just a thought. A whisper of realization from Luo Feng made him feel his own spirit also slowly transforming. At the 852nd layer, the Catastrophe Beast encountered the most terrifying calamity ever, another similar Catastrophe Beast. The two beasts fought a battle to the death. This terrifying battle lasted a long time, until the 873rd layer in the Void Reflection diagram, the Catastrophe Beast finally triumphed, undergo a significant transformation during this victory. Luo Feng, just by observing the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram, and from the imageries of these scrolls, felt as though he was growing alongside the Catastrophe Beast, and he gained a lot from it. A heart can be large or small, large enough to be an enemy of the supreme laws, small enough to merge with countless lesser beings. After merging with numerous lesser beings, it can match the highest supreme. At the 873rd layer, as the Catastrophe Beast triumphed and transformed completely, Luo Feng perceived more of the Catastrophe Beast's method of telepathic cultivation, his own spirit also slowly transforming. Boom tilde tilde tilde. Long since an eternal true god, he had been at the peak of a primal chaos overlord's will. Nurtured in a formidable godly body, honed under the secret technique of L. Spiritual will had at that moment entirely stepped into a new realm. If before Luo Feng's spiritual will was tenacious and indestructible, not shaken even if the world ends, can cut through all obstacles on the path, then at this moment Luo Feng's spiritual will had gained an additional layer of nuance. Spiritual will, when gathered, can be as unstoppable as the heavens and earth. When divided, it can branch into billions, endlessly bursting with vitality. Even if Luo Feng's spiritual will was subjected to a terrible attack, as long as a trace remained, it could rapidly recover to its pinnacle. This was the heart of eternality that Luo Feng had comprehended from the Calamity Beast diagram. Possessing the heart of eternality was the key to overcoming countless calamities and reaching the final shore, to truly transform oneself. My spiritual will had long ago reached the peak level of a primal chaos overlord. Yet even becoming an eternal true god, with a godly body 100 billion times stronger, and after cultivating the Lai Yuan technique for more than 24 eras, I still hadn't made a breakthrough. It was all because I lacked an essential understanding. Without an essential understanding, one can only rely on the passage of time to refine oneself. I'm afraid that only after several thousand or even tens of thousands of eras of refining the Lai Yuan technique can the breakthrough to a godly king's will occur. Luo Feng suddenly had this enlightenment. Time is indeed magical. With long periods of refinement, there will eventually be rewards. But the fact that I could make a breakthrough in such a short time owes much to the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram, which has transformed my understanding of spiritual will. I've only grasped the mere basics of the Calamity Beast diagram, and yet I've transformed. How terrifying must the actual Calamity Beasts be? Luo Feng wondered. With this transformation of will, my strength has finally increased significantly. Facing a primal chaos overlord, I now have means to respond. Luo Feng felt considerably more at ease. In the past, it was the pinnacle primal chaos will combined with the Lai Yuan technique, but the ancient primal chaos overlords possessed a variety of inheritances, all with rather formidable secret techniques of willpower, and even those with exceptional talent could comprehend the origin Great Tao to create their own secret technique of willpower. Their will, even if not reaching the pinnacle of primal chaos, generally would not differ by much. Therefore, once they engaged in battle, if the gap in willpower was not significant, then merely relying on the advantage of the Lai Yuan technique would make it difficult to defeat the opponent. An injured primal chaos overlord could still launch a frenzied counterattack. According to my master's intelligence, amongst the primal chaos overlords, only a few have spiritual wills that have broken through to the godly king level. Luo Feng thought, below the level of a godly king's will, it's likely that none can match me. A godly king's will and the pinnacle primal chaos will are fundamentally different. With the advantage of the Lai Yuan technique, I would be more than sufficient to sweep through most of the primal chaos realm. As my strength increases, the advantage of the Lai Yuan technique will also diminish. Luo Feng understood this point. According to my master's information, Yuan in the land of origin is a legend who has escaped the braided cage. He has also guided many juniors and left behind some inheritances. The Lai Yuan technique is just one among them. The inheritances left by Yuan indeed caused a scramble among the various forces in the land of origin, with the majority ultimately being controlled by the two ancient countries. Moreover, my master suspects that there must also be some ancient beings in the two ancient countries who have broken free from the braided cage, because those countries are far too strong compared to others, with many mysterious and powerful inheritances, Luo Feng mused. For instance, the Emperor of the Flame-Wind ancient country who painted this drawing. I've only grasped a bit of the fundamentals, and yet I've made a breakthrough. And he had watched the Calamity Beasts and personally painted many Calamity Beast diagrams. Luo Feng had some understanding that these Calamity Beast diagrams were sold to outsiders for 15 million cosmic sand each. But to that Emperor of the Flame-Wind ancient country, he probably didn't care about the cosmic sand at all. What he cared about were the repeated drawings of the Calamity Beast diagrams. Each time he drew, it must have been an act of spiritual cultivation. That Emperor who drew the Calamity Beast diagrams, to what realm has his spiritual will reached? Luo Feng could sense, even from just a part of the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram, how vast the gap between himself and the painter was. My spiritual will has just entered the threshold of a godly king's level. And what about him? The Flame-Wind ancient country is indeed unfathomable. If one emperor is so terrifying, there are probably more than one of such beings. The higher Luo Feng's strength rose, the more serene he became. He had not a hint of arrogance, knowing there were many stronger than him. But he also had not a trace of inferiority, for even at the stage of an eternal true god, he possessed a godly king's will. When he becomes a godly king in the future, to what realm will his spiritual will reach? Luo Feng glanced at the 3000 Void Calamity Beast diagram floating in the air, and with a single thought, he left the Star Tower. When Luo Feng exited the underground hall, he saw Morosa leisurely eating and drinking at the foot of the mountain. It's been so long, and you're still not done digesting. Luo Feng took a step and approached Morosa. Morosa smiled naively. I can't waste the effects, I need to fully digest them. I guess in a few more days, I can go into seclusion again. Luo Feng nodded in understanding. Going into seclusion again meant that it was time for Morosa to consume the divine body of Shuiyun to achieve the primal chaos realm. When the time comes, my realm will also break through, and I'll master several innate secret techniques, Morosa communicated through his spirit. I can also show the master the complete law of primal chaos. Let's see your performance, Luo Feng smiled faintly. The higher Morosa's realm, the more mysteries of destruction's origin he could show to Luo Feng, which naturally included the law of primal chaos. The law of primal chaos is magical, the foundation of any origin great Tao. The sector beast is indeed the favored child of the highest rules, naturally mastering the origin of destruction and, with growth, would ultimately fully control the great Tao of destruction origin, possessing inconceivable abilities. Master, I feel you're a bit different today, Morosa observed Luo Feng, for as a soul-enslaved servant with their spirits connected, he could faintly sense the changes in his master. I've had some realizations in my cultivation, Luo Feng said. You go ahead and eat slowly. Luo Feng flashed and was already at the mountain peak. Morosa glanced over and muttered under his breath, some insights? Keep having insights, but I've already become primal chaos realm. The taste of being stronger than his own master, Morosa found it particularly exhilarating. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Hometown, Luo Feng's small universe. Luo Feng and his wife, Xuxin, were leisurely exploring. Their small universe had a diameter of 100 billion light-years, and human civilization was extremely flourishing. Although Luo Feng could sense countless planets within the small universe with a thought that would make it boring, he chose not to deliberately probe, and instead enjoyed touring different places with his wife, discovering fresh new experiences. Luo Feng, let's go. Accompany me to see the divine tree on this planet. Just one planet, and yet over 70% of it is made up of a single divine tree. It's so interesting, Xuxin said. You go ahead, Luo Feng said. I have something to do today. I should go first. Xuxin was startled. Can't you just send a divine power incarnation to handle your affairs? You don't have the energy to accompany me. Her husband's realm was so high, he could manage many divine power incarnations simultaneously with a single thought. Today is different, Luo Feng shook his head. Even my true body at the other end of the samsara channel needs to rest and give this my all. What is it? Xuxin asked curiously. Dealing with the primordial cosmos, Luo Feng said. Xuxin was shocked. Dealing with the primordial cosmos. Yes, I need it to completely open up the source ground of the primordial cosmos to me, Luo Feng said. During the last reincarnation era, when the primordial cosmos was destroyed, I entered the source ground of the primordial cosmos. Back then, the primordial cosmos only allowed me into a small corner of the source ground. Now, I wanted to open up every part of the source ground of the primordial cosmos to me without any hidden areas, Luo Feng continued. The information from the Master, from the Duan Dong River lineage, and even some information circulated on the land of origin all had records about the primordial cosmos. The primordial cosmos, with its 3,000 dimensions, allowed strong beings who braved the cycle of reincarnation to arrive on the land of origin a chance if their will was strong enough to seize control of the primordial cosmos. However, the will of the primordial cosmos was generally very strong. It often required a primal chaos level will, and possibly even a godly king level will to be successful. Thus, those who successfully seized control were still few and far between. But for every successful individual, the benefits for their cultivation were substantial. It's individuals like the mountain-sitting guest, who were already godly kings, that didn't have much ambition to seize control of the primordial cosmos. Completely opens up every part of the source ground? Xuxin didn't quite understand, but she knew from listening that it was extraordinary. In that situation, the life and death of the primordial cosmos's will would be in my hands, Luo Feng explained. I could erase its will at any time, replacing it with my own, and control the entire primordial cosmos. So, the will of the primordial cosmos won't agree to it easily. I never thought about having to erase its will. I'll give it a chance to live, provided it opens up the source ground to me completely, Luo Feng said. This was the biggest opportunity for every strong being that came to the land of origin through the cycle of reincarnation. Are you confident? Xuxin asked. I wasn't in the past, but now I am, Luo Feng said. According to the information, even if the naturally born will of the primordial cosmos used the cosmos as its vessel, it couldn't contend with a godly king-level will. Be careful, Shushin knew the importance of her husband's task. The one that needs to be careful is the primordial cosmos, Luo Feng said with a slight smile. At this moment, a strand of divine power incarnation had already left the small universe and was traveling through the void, heading straight for the primordial cosmos. At this moment, Luo Feng's true body and other incarnations were resting, with almost all of his consciousness focused on this strand of divine power incarnation, making its consciousness exceptionally vast. Boom tilde tilde tilde, this strand of divine power incarnation had barely approached the primordial cosmos when an invisible wave of spiritual will crushed down. One was a weak divine power incarnation. The other was the immeasurably vast primordial cosmos. Without the constraints of the supreme laws, when Luo Feng's spiritual will collided with the primordial cosmos, the will of the primordial cosmos began to tremble. A vibration came through, inquiring about Luo Feng's purpose. Will of the primordial cosmos, you should know that, as a creature born from the primordial cosmos, being powerful enough gives me the right to control it. This is an opportunity for cultivation granted to me by the supreme laws, Luo Feng's thoughts conveyed. The will of the primordial cosmos sent back vibrations, a mix of annoyance and urgency. You understand, you can't threaten me, Luo Feng continued to convey his thoughts. I give you two choices. One is to open up the source ground of the primordial cosmos to me completely, leaving no secrets from my sight. Your will would still exist and could still control the primordial cosmos. The other option is to refuse me, and my will would invade the primordial cosmos, even into the source ground. Then, I will erase your will and completely control the primordial cosmos. The will of the primordial cosmos sent out waves, it was negotiating. The source ground was very important to it, just as the true God's heart was to a true God. If completely opened, Luo Feng could erase it at any moment, and it would be powerless to resist. It only wanted to open up a part, unwilling to expose its most core areas. The primordial cosmos will wanted to negotiate, and in response, Luo Feng sent forth his spiritual will with a single thought, boom tilde tilde tilde, the formidable might of the godly kings will made the primordial cosmos will considerably wary. I'm not here to negotiate with you, the source ground of the primordial cosmos must open up to me completely. Luo Feng conveyed his thoughts, will you agree, or will you refuse? The primordial cosmos will send out fluctuations. It had the entire primordial cosmos as its carrier, and the source ground possessed extremely strong protection, it was capable of resistance. I admit, you can marshal forces to fight back, and perhaps this divine power incarnation of mine will collapse. Luo Feng gazed upon the vast and boundless primordial cosmos, thoughts transmitting, but if one of my divine power incarnations collapses, I will immediately send out a second one, a third one, endlessly. In this confrontation, your defeat is certain. The primordial cosmos will fell silent. Originally, the primordial ancestor attempted to replace the primordial cosmos will with his own, using that virtual universe to cover the entire primordial cosmos, launching an internal attack suddenly, posing a greater threat. Yet once he failed, he was suppressed by the primordial cosmos. It was Luo Feng who later resolved the catastrophe of the sector beast, convincing the primordial cosmos to release the primordial ancestor. As for Luo Feng's divine power incarnation attacking from the outside, the demand on will was higher, yet it was also safer. While it's difficult for the will to invade the primordial cosmos from outside, Luo Feng's thoughts transferred, I have endless opportunities. How many times can you stop me? Tilde tilde tilde, the primordial cosmos will transmitted information. It had multiple dealings with Luo Feng and wanted to persuade him. Indeed, we have some connections, so I am giving you a chance. If you won't even grant me the opportunity for comprehension, you can't blame me. Luo Feng's eyes turned cold as his will became more terrifying, surging massively, already invading the primordial cosmos. Luo Feng's will, dispersed into billions infiltrating everywhere, yet also formed into a cohesive oppression, making it very hard for the primordial cosmos will to withstand. There was a vast gap between their realms. So be it, perhaps the primordial cosmos will is not willing to yield. Then, I can only take action. Luo Feng shook his head. Humans needed meat to eat, and for cultivators facing opportunities bestowed by heaven and earth, they could not afford to miss them. Seizing the chance to control the primordial cosmos was the greatest opportunity for those braving the reincarnation era, its value on par with the Lai Yuan technique. Once obtained, 1 foot was already stepping into the godlicking level. But of course, securing this opportunity was extremely difficult. The chances of an eternal true god successfully soul transferring were rather low, although primal chaos overlords stood a much better chance. However, the powerhouses of the 3000 primordial cosmoses started from too low a point and had to follow the path of laws, making it incredibly difficult to become eternal true gods, let alone primal chaos overlords. Moreover, if their growth was too slow, they would face the catastrophe of the sector beast. The sector beast could devour primordial cosmoses, which still had the opportunity to grow anew. However, the small universes of the eternal true gods had no means to withstand a grown sector beast. This showed how incredibly difficult it was to take control of the primordial cosmos. With the opportunity before him, how could Luo Feng let it slip by? Boom .. Luo Feng's spiritual will had already struck into the primordial cosmos. Wherever the primordial cosmos will try to defend, it crumbled away. Suddenly, the primordial cosmos will sent out a message. Luo Feng was surprised for a moment, then laughed. I thought you truly wouldn't yield. At this moment, the information conveyed by the primordial cosmos will was clear. It conceded, bowed down, willing to completely open the source ground of the primordial cosmos. Its only request was to hope not to be erased. It had wisdom, it too wanted to live. Rest assured, I keep my word, Luo Feng responded to it. Immediately, Luo Feng stepped forth and entered into the primordial cosmos. The vast dark region ahead naturally formed into a wormhole passage leading to a place of mystery. When I resolved the catastrophe of the sector beast, I felt the great destruction of the primordial cosmos in one corner of the source ground. Luo Feng reflected silently, but now, before the strength on display, the primordial cosmos will has yielded, allowing me to comprehend the operations of the primordial cosmos laws at my leisure. Following this natural wormhole passage, Luo Feng arrived at a vast and mysterious space. This immense space was impossible to find with ordinary senses. It drifted with countless specks of light. These countless specks were scanned over by Luo Feng with a thought. Some seemed minuscule but contained immensely vast energy. Others, however, were filled with a great deal of information. The primordial cosmos underwent great destruction and then began anew, flourishing and declining, only to be destroyed again in a continual cycle. Luo Feng mused, the source ground keeps records of information from cycle to cycle in the reincarnation era. Information of various civilizations, of powerful secret techniques. But for Luo Feng, these meant little. After all, the creatures living within the primordial cosmos were too weak. Whoosh! The primeval space enveloped Luo Feng in colorful radiance, as if he were clothed in a robe of colors. At that moment, Luo Feng's will extended instantly. At that moment, the primordial cosmos was like a physical body, his will fused with it as one. He himself was the primordial cosmos. At that moment, Luo Feng could feel himself embodying the primordial cosmos, breathing in, drawing in endless energy from the universe ocean, transforming into endless life energy stored within the primeval space, while also exhaling a large amount of harmful substances. But even the primordial cosmos, in its operation, would gradually decline and inevitably move towards ultimate destruction. Only through destruction could it welcome new life. Truly wonderful, Luo Feng felt. The countless celestial bodies within the primordial cosmos, or even a grain of sand, a wisp of air, all were incarnations of Luo Feng. Luo Feng could feel their life cycles. Some flowers, grasses, and trees might have extremely short life cycles, while celestial bodies could last much longer. Even galaxies and star fields have life cycles. Galaxies and star fields do not possess conscious life. However, flesh and blood life, plant life, and so forth, can indeed gain consciousness and embark on the path of evolution. All this is the influence of the laws in operation, Luo Feng observed, and his understanding of the functioning of laws also deepened. From a macro perspective, the operation of the laws in the primordial cosmos guides the evolution of the entire cosmos. But on a micro level, the operation of many laws leads to changes in everything, even brimming with infinite possibilities. The entire human race, including Luo Feng himself, is the result of these laws in operation. An invisible hand guides the evolution of all things. And this invisible hand is the operation of the cosmic laws. Luo Feng felt keenly, knowing that the 10 fundamental laws were only the most superficial aspect. It's like 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, 3 begets everything. The 10 fundamental laws are merely 3, it's their ability to create everything that fascinates Luo Feng. On a planet within Luo Feng's miniature universe, Xuxin wasn't in the mood to watch the planet's tree, instead staying by her husband's side as Luo Feng sat cross-legged under the tree with his eyes closed. I wonder how Luo Feng is faring against the will of the primordial cosmos. Xuxin was very worried, as that was the will of the primordial cosmos, after all. Suddenly, she noticed Luo Feng opening his eyes. How is it? Xuxin asked immediately. The will of the primordial cosmos has yielded, Luo Feng said with a smile. It has opened up the primeval space to me, indeed a great aid to cultivation. That's good to hear, Xuxin said happily. She had always been worried about her husband's days on the other end of the samsara channel. After all, his true body was there, and if he died, it would be a true death. She couldn't help much, so seeing her husband gain a great opportunity naturally made her happy. Is it very dangerous on the other side of the samsara channel? Xuxin asked. It's all right, Luo Feng replied with a smile. Your husband I keep a low profile and don't cause trouble, and even if there are some, they are just small issues. The land of origin is said to be dangerous, naturally hiding endless perils. If not deemed dangerous, and one keeps a low profile and doesn't provoke terrifying existences, it can still be managed quite comfortably. At the source ground within the primordial cosmos, Luo Feng immersed in comprehension for a long time before finally stopping. When the 10 fundamental laws are completely merged into one, it forms the law of primal chaos, Luo Feng murmured, and the operation of the primordial cosmos laws is far more vast than the law of primal chaos. Merging with the primordial cosmos, feeling its breath, its movements, has greatly aided my comprehension of the laws. Luo Feng looked into the distance. The vast space wherein the source ground was located, extremely large, also concealed a true core. This was also recorded in the intelligence from his master, mountain-sitting guest, and from the Duandong River lineage. The will of the primordial cosmos didn't dare to be evasive. Once it said it would open up completely, it had to be complete. If it was evasive, the consequences would likely be very serious. It was well aware of Luo Feng's temperament. With a step, Luo Feng had already arrived at the true core of the source ground. As soon as he arrived, Luo Feng saw the substantial manifestation of an immense Tao. At first glance, it seemed like an endless, winding dragon with 24 claws, each dragon scale containing endless information, and each of the 24 claws contained information far beyond the law of primal chaos. Its vastness and depth were indescribable. His perfect divine body was strong, but in front of it, as fragile as floating dust. Its size was infinite. It was hidden within the source ground of the primordial cosmos, but its vastness, Luo Feng felt, transcended the primordial cosmos. It was boundlessly immense. Merely by watching, Luo Feng naturally received a great deal of information. Is this the legendary core of the primordial cosmos, the great Tao of life origin? Luo Feng looked up at it, so astounding. At first glance, it is a serpentine dragon. On closer inspection, it resembles a river that runs through past and future. Time and space cannot erode it, it is an eternal existence. And yet another look, it is an endless, magnificent, godly body. Luo Feng had once seen the imposing corpse of God King Jin with his own eyes, and compared to what he now saw, it was utterly insignificant. That seemed to be the ultimate pursuit of his perfect divine body. From different angles come different views. It is the origin of countless lives. It even represents the very concept of life itself. The great Tao of life origin. Luo Feng murmured, a complete origin great Tao, without any concealment, right before my eyes. This is the greatest opportunity to control the primordial cosmos. This episode is end here.